everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar. I am your host, as always. And this week, with quite a few dramatic developments, I think, certainly at the top end of the club. Who better to bring on as my guest than the Sage of Saltcoats himself, Andy McGowan. Hello, Andy.
Hello, Davey. So is that the reason I'm on? Because, we did win yesterday, and I wonder why I'm on a pod where we're talking about victory, so it must be the other matters at hand that have forced you to bring
This is your wheelhouse. This is your area. The people... honestly, people have been emailing me saying, "You getting Andy on?" So
No, they never.
They do, honestly. I have to give the people what they want. I am nothing if not resolutely populist, Andrew. Let's not kid
Mr.
ourselves
Trump,
here.
yeah.
Yes, no, I'm, I'd have won this one as well, I give the people what they want. That's why we've had the longevity that we've had. Let's start then with that, and we'll go on to the game later in the show. But we'll start off with the news on Saturday that John Bennett has stepped down for health reasons. Manager Philippe Clement mentioned yesterday it's not something he wanted to do. He told Philippe Clement, but his doctor had insisted upon it. First things first, Andy, we just wish him all the best and hope he recovers, because at the end of the day, and maybe you and I, after health scares ourselves in recent years, would both, maybe it's put it in a wee bit more perspective for us as well. So just nothing's more important.
No, I mean, it's a cliche, but it's true, and sometimes it takes a wee thing to happen between your family or you before you actually truly realise it, and it does change you. And we're younger men than John Bennett, and we spoke about John Bennett a couple of weeks ago. I wonder what his family were saying to him through all this, because I could imagine the stress and the strain and the responsibility taken upon himself. And I just wondered what his family had been saying to him, because, they will be Rangers fans, but they'll not be as involved as John was. And sometimes you see things differently when you're standing at the sideline watching a loved one or a relative or whatever.
Definitely.
Getting so absorbed in something that is so all-consuming, and all-consuming I don't think covers it. There's a context, Davey. John Bennett, as you know, I've been a big fan of John Bennett professionally, right? He's been a fund manager. Probably
a fund manager, not a fun manager, just in case. No,
I'm a fund manager.
And you're a fund manager.
The fund manager world is one of the most pressurised, results-driven places you can be, and he survived that for, 30, 40 years, something like decades anyway. Probably a question to other Rangers supporters that did we make it easier or harder for him? And because if it's taking its toll on John Bennett, there's a story there. There's a lesson there, and it's not just for John Bennett. It's for everybody connected with Rangers about how we go about things, and you can take that any way you want.
Yeah, I mean, people sometimes say to me, "Oh, you're not as angry as you were 20 years ago," and I'm like, "No, I'm not." And I'm glad of that. I mean, firstly, I'm not a drug-addled drunk these days, and secondly, I think once you've gone through, you and I have discussed this, just in our lives, that once you go through something, you kind of do gain a bit of perspective. It's a painful way to get it, but you get it. And you begin to realise the stuff that's truly important, and that is, you, health, family, and you sort of move on. So we wish John all the best. He's been replaced on a temporary basis by John Gilligan, a man that I think both of us know and respect, Andy. I don't think it was something that was on John's life plan, but if Rangers asked him to do something, it's that simple. If Rangers asked John to get the people into the car park on a Saturday, he'd do it. He'd organise it. That's just, I mean, he's Rangers through and through. But people maybe shouldn't be, I think, just hearing that, because then they go, "Oh, well, I'm Rangers through and through as well. I shouldn't be on a club." John's very sharp.
But we know him for Trust a few years ago. I barely know him. He was kind of leaving as I was joining, but you know him much better than I do. But that what you've just said didn't need to be spoken about, to be quite honest with you. He was a managing director of one of the biggest companies in the UK, never mind Scotland. New Rangers, no Scottish football, but he was a pivotal part of 2016 when the good guys won the club back, and you're right. I doubt very much he thought he was going to have this. I was going to say this opportunity, but this task is probably a more appropriate
Task
word.
is probably the right word. Yeah, I think so. Duty.
Duty, aye. Whatever else you want to kind of take away from making it sound like something that's lovely and cosy. So he comes in and he's probably a galvanising figure at this moment in time, because I don't think John Gilligan's got many enemies. He can appeal to a broad church of the Rangers support because he is a Rangers fan. Talks like a Rangers fan, looks like a Rangers fan, acts like a Rangers fan because he is a Rangers fan, and you see him in the terraces now and again. So he's got a big job in his hands, and I wouldn't mind a penny for his thoughts right now, to be quite honest with you.
No, like I say, I don't think it was something that he'd ever even considered, but when Rangers asked, he does it. That's the type of guy he is. So I wish him all the best. It's not an easy job right now, goodness knows that. But in terms of the intellect and the capacity for being able to go in and understand, because as you said, he is a fan, he understands why we feel the way we feel. He hasn't been involved in board level for the last few years, so he doesn't have that, if you like, being too close to the situation. I think, Andy, sometimes if you're inside something, he doesn't have that. He's had the outside perspective as well, and clearly it's in all our interest that he does the job well. And the next thing was Dave King. He announced through Chris Jack at the Rangers Review that he would be willing to come back as chairman, and he would be willing to do the job for 2 years, doesn't want it long term, but get the club on a more stable path and get it to a place where it was open for outside investment, which I assume would mean a takeover of some sort. What are your thoughts on that, Andy?
He's been bubbling up and down, hasn't he, Dave King? And I really don't know what his game is. I don't know. I know his game is to make Rangers back to where they should be and sort a lot of the mess out, because that's what he's...
Is it a game, or is it just Occam's razor? I mean, he's not saying anything, as far as I can see, he hasn't said anything that you would disagree with. The club's been run badly, made a lot of mistakes, and has lost direction. So I don't, is it a game? Is it fair to call it that?
Well, I'm choosing my words carefully. A strong man option at this moment in time is very, very appealing, right? It's like anything that's in turmoil. If somebody comes along and says, you know what, I'll come in, I'll sort it out, I've got a plan in place, I can bring the attributes, I can bring the people, I can bring the wherewithal to make this situation better. You would need to have pretty strong rationale to say, no, actually, we'll just leave it, thanks. The reason I use the word game is because, well, he's been trying to sell his shares. It's not been a secret. The Club 1872 kind of mechanism died a dismal death, to be quite honest, for various reasons. Not much to do with Dave King, to be honest, but can you be there 1 minute and then here the next? And, you can be a call to arms out the goodness of your heart and love our Rangers, and it could be that. I just have my spidey senses tingling. There's nothing more to it than that. Dave King was the one reason I managed to sleep at night for multiple years during the bad, dark times that we had. I'll never forget that. I think he was the right man at the right time with the right characteristics and the right strength. Who else would go toe to toe with Mike Ashley like he did? So we'll be forever in his debt for what he did for us. But I don't know, the dynamics just seem so strange just now, David, because it's clear that the boardroom that we have just now, and I'm saying boardroom, the investors that we've got just now, would they break bread with Dave King again? I don't know. There's a bit of water went under that particular bridge. He left under circumstances which we've never really had clarity on, which, there was wasn't exactly a great time to leave. He's came back and had a couple of wee kind of muted pot shots at people within the club. I don't know, Davey. There's something that I'm like, well, tell me more. And why is this being played out in the media? Because for this to happen, I'm presuming that the investors we've got just now, we need to say, yeah, Dave, and you come.
Yeah, they would.
Come into the boardroom and actually defer to his leadership offer. That wouldn't happen by doing it through the Daily Record or the TalkSport. So I'm a wee bit perplexed.
That's why I don't think it's going to happen, incidentally, because I think, as you do, that if it was going to happen, it just would have. It would have been announced.
There'd be a relationship there ready to be reopened.
It wouldn't have gone through the public. Secondly, I think there's a block on the board that will not vote for him to do that for the reasons you've just mentioned. So I don't see it happening. But I don't think we should dismiss what he's saying, though. The one thing I do disagree, because I think a lot of the stuff he's saying is correct, but the one thing I would slightly disagree on is he says he thinks we wouldn't be as well getting new people in. I actually think the opposite. I think we do. And one of the reasons for that is, while there are, just from the reaction that I've seen, and as I say, obviously with Running Heartman, we get a lot of feedback from Rangers supporters. There are a lot of people who would very much want him back and a lot of people who wouldn't want him back. And I think that we have a tendency as a support to look to the past in times of trouble a wee bit too much. I think what we need at the moment is a plan going forward. And I think fresh people coming in who don't have that baggage, for good or for bad, by the way, but have a clean slate, I think coming in to work for the club, by the way, not coming in, I'm not talking about owners or investors, I'm talking about people coming in at chairman and CEO level who have a mandate from those owners to run the club with overview, as we've discussed before. But I think fresh eyes, fresh ideas might be the way to go. So I disagree with him there slightly. I don't disagree with anything he's saying about the way Rangers have been run for the past 3-4 years, because I think the evidence is just far too much that he is correct in what he's saying there. But Dave King, I think, is very, very unlikely to come back as chairman. I think, if anything, it might be a way to just get people talking about, well, what is the future, and maybe draw that out from the board. But I do think he's right when he speaks about a lack of leadership at Rangers. I think that we have suffered from that for the last wee while, and that's why we need people in these top jobs.
Yeah, I agree. And we like a figurehead at Rangers. We like strong leaders, and it can galvanise. That's a strength and a weakness, because if you can be led, then things can happen. Our support is fantastic at Rangers support, but by the same token, if you're being led by the wrong people, it can be counterproductive. We've seen that already with people that are smooth talkers and tell you what you want to hear. Charles Green, for example. So what he's saying about the club is largely correct. I agree with you that I think there would be a huge merit in having people that are slightly dispassionate working in an interface with the investors who are obviously absorbed in what's going on, mentally, physically, financially. They're now entwined with what's going on at the club. There's a point to be made that Dave King deserves a wee bit of respect in the fact that he is still, I think he's still the biggest shareholder in the club at 14%, something like that, I might be wrong, but so he's quite right in that it's not like he can't stick his neb in now and again and stir the pot, because if you're a shareholder at that level, then
absolutely
you'd be daft naughty, and anybody that
he's got to protect his investment. I don't think there's anything wrong with that whatsoever.
Of course he could. He should, and he could. And I just think that if we look at this in terms of putting the jigsaw together, you're like, right, talking through the media, we know that there's clear chasms between him and parts of the investors already. John Bennett, I don't think he would have had him back. I take his discussions or his comments about outside investment with a large pinch of salt. And I also think that the whole point, and he was the architect of this, as far as I could see, of bringing a broad church of multiple investors to the table where nobody owned too much of the club. The whole point of that was that it protected us against what happened in 2012, where a vulture entity, person, whatever, could come and take the club in a direction that you don't have any power to reverse. That's what happened to us, right? Isn't it? We get taken in a direction. We had zero power to do anything about it because we had a majority shareholder that was now under the thrall of the bank. So it was almost a blood pact, King and the rest of that board of that. And at that time I spoke about it. I says, look, this is really unusual to have so many, whatever you want to call them, millionaires, strong characters that have achieved things in their life, and are leaders and have that je ne sais quoi that makes you a successful person, that drive and that wee bit of devilment. To have them all around a table pulling the same direction was a major, major thing for me, for Dave King, because he managed to corral them. And, you talking about Ashley there, and I think at one point there was a call to buy the contract to or something, I recall, and it was 5-6 million quid, and he basically painted the picture as a couple of conference calls, and the next thing the money was ponied up. Things like that do not happen around a table with people like that all the time, and it's probably only natural at some point there would be either superficial or real fractures between them. That's kind of what's happened, isn't it? But to their credit as well, they've kept it relatively in-house, and there's no been that much air in public or dirty laundry. King's been the most vocal, and it might just be a symptom of the fact that he's removed and he's South Africa and he can come in and kind of launch a wee grenade and then back out and watch what happens. So I don't know about you, David, I think this is the start of something, because something's going to change. But I go back to, we're not going to get a sugar daddy. We're not going to get bought out 100%. I just don't think that's a feasible option at this moment in time or anytime soon. I don't particularly want that, I've got to be honest with you. It's why I'm always very much devil you know guy, and I'm a small C conservative when it comes to Rangers. This isn't about winning football games for me at this moment in time. Winning football games is your reason for existing. You've got to exist to have a reason to exist, if you know what I mean. This is a wee bit existential at times for me, and this is why with Bennett going and a wee bit of rejoicing in some quarters, and some of the responses I was really, really disheartened with in terms of Rangers supporters responding to the fact that he left due to ill health. We need to remember what happened in 2012, and folk might turn their face up at me or whatever. Listen, see, if we don't learn what we should learn for that, then we will be the most stupid support to have ever walked this earth, and we need to just watch that it only takes a few missteps and you're back in treacherous territory.
Well, we did have a game at the weekend, and we did get a victory, a 1-0 win over Dundee United at Tannadice. And again, Andy, I thought of something you said on here a few weeks ago, which is we've got to get better at putting the game to bed. Firstly, for our health as supporters, because we go through the rigmarole constantly. But secondly, Rangers for 30 minutes yesterday were excellent, really good, genuinely really good. We were dominant. We were winning the ball back quickly on the rare occasions Dundee United got to it. We were running them all over the pitch. They were struggling to cope with our movement. Our passing was one touch and fluid. We scored an early goal, which is always important, but we didn't get that second, which allowed them to stay in the game. And then second half at home, a team's going to have a go. Now, I will say that watching it back without the pressure and without the, oh my God, we're going to concede, then Rangers could argue, I think, legitimately. And in fact, Jim Goodwin said after it that he felt it was a fair result because he didn't think United created enough. The Rangers' defence were very solid yesterday. Yeah. They really were. So, barring one deflected shot, the United never really threatened. However, at 1-0, it only takes something like that. It would have been terrible bad luck if that shot, which was going to hit the corner flag, had deflected in, but that can happen. And again, it is just something that has been a problem for 2-3 seasons now. You've got to put teams away when you're dominant. And that game should have been all but put to bed inside half an hour, should certainly have been dead after an hour, and the team should have been able to relax, make some changes. But again, we're having to play right up to the 93rd minute.
So it was a tough game. I mean, even looking back now, a day after it, 2 days after it, sorry, a day after it, that was actually maybe tougher than I appreciated. before the game, I mean, I was catching up with pals and spoke to a few folk that I respect their opinion, and they had really low expectations, and I think it was more than just coming off the back of an Old Firm hiding. It was just, we're not really seeing things clicking. You had Ross County, but it's Ross County, and then things go badly wrong against Celtic, and I think a lot of expectation was washed out. But you're right, we were really, really good for the first half hour, 25 minutes, 30 minutes anyway. And your point you're making there, it's about taking chances. And I know we keep saying this, and I know it's like blindingly obvious that if you don't take your chances, but this is what gives Celtic their key differentiator between us, because a lot of games they've got in a season, they will score 1-2 goals in the games, the opposition's not coming back for that, and therefore completely changes the disposition of the game. There's no bite in it. You've got control of the ball. You can bring on substitutes. You can bleed folk in. You can rotate. It changes the dynamics so much that it's no real. And when you then extrapolate that over a season, when you might have, 15, 20 games like that, that's massive. It's massive in terms of strain and stress and injuries and mental, our mental health, never mind the players. But there was loads of stuff yesterday. I thought, this is really good. I thought Barron was brilliant for that entire period, because he was. If you watch that game, I watched that game again last night, Davey, for the same reasons you did, because at the game I'm just getting too uptight now to actually come away with a correct opinion on things. I thought he pulled the strings completely there, always available. His movement across the park, if you watch that game again, you'll see him and how he moves when we've got the ball and he's not. But what I loved about him yesterday was those quick, incisive, almost disguised forward passes through lines. We've not had that for so long. And are you starting to see the style of play now? Because this has been a big criticism, isn't it? No style of play. It's clear now that the style of play is we will play patiently from the back, which I'm delighted to see, by the way. I think that's the future. I think that's what we'll go to today. And we'll wait until the teams we're playing just open up that wee bit. They just concertina open a wee bit, and then we try and get through them. And then you've got energy for Diamandi, you've got energy for Barron, and the 1-2s round about the final third were actually quite good in that period. I mean, I heard your post-match yesterday. Dessers had a bad day. He had a good first half. He was stinking the second half, and he had a bad miss just before half time. But there was a lot of good link-up play yesterday.
Yeah, he did more than I thought watching it live. But there was also a lot of fairly awful stuff as well from him. But that's who he is. That isn't going to change, right? Sometimes he did have some decent layoffs, to be fair to him, and I should notice that more than I do. But I just feel with Dessers that it's you never know what you're going to get from him, and I think we saw that yesterday. But again, for me, and I mentioned this yesterday, I hate talking about Dessers because, like happens a lot in modern society, people are so polarised that for some people they'll go, oh, you never give him any credit, and for other people it's, oh, you're not critical enough of him. If you say he does something well, then people get onto you, and if you say that he does something badly, people get onto you. And I think the truth is just in the middle with him. But for me, the key thing and the reason why I just don't trust them to put away that key chance, and yesterday's another case in point, didn't cost us, but it could have in the game. I do think that you're spot on with Barron, and it was the speed at which Rangers did things yesterday, Andy, was the difference in that half an hour at least, where it was getting to the ball first, winning the second balls when they were loose, penning United in and smothering them. And that's something I think we need to get better at. Now, my criticism again yesterday is that we didn't keep it going. And had we got the second, it would have entitled us and enabled us to go, right, okay, we've done that. Now we can sit back and they have to come at us. And then there would have been space, and who knows, we'd probably go on and win it by a few. But we didn't, and therefore, you have to stay solid at the back. I thought Barron was very good. Another young player I want to focus on is Jefte, because quietly, I think he came on early games and played quite well going forward. And I think we all thought, well, he's maybe a wee bit of our football biases here. Well, he's a Brazilian, so he will be good going forward, but defensively, he'll probably be a bit weak. He's not. He really isn't. He he doesn't dive into tackles, but as a defender, you shouldn't need to. If you're diving into tackles constantly, it's because you're out of position. He's very rarely out of position. His positional sense is excellent, and he wins his one-on-ones. You know, when he goes into his tackles, he comes away with the ball. And I just thought that yesterday United, you could see they were thinking, right, we'll target him, and they stopped after about 10 minutes because they thought, no, we're actually getting no joy out of him at all doing this one.
No, totally agree. I mean, I've liked him for the first moment I set eyes on him, and that was even despite the fact it was in Berlin where we were losing goals like a BB Sunday, a wee boys team. And he was kind of at the centre of that, and I thought, oh Christ, here we go. We've got a guy that can attack brilliantly but can't defend anything. And there's been he's just looked far more solid and assured, and he's got a physique that I think is perfect for football. You know, he's no small, he's no bulky. He can get up and down that park. I enjoy watching him, you know, and what I mean by that is he's easy on the eye as a football player, and his crossing, I don't think we've seen the half of it yet. I think he's got an exceptional ability to put one in across the face of the goal yesterday, which was absolutely delicious. Yeah. But he's also got this ability to put a ball in from kind of further up the park, you know, from a deeper position where he can lift it up and over towards the back post. And I think he's got variation in that, and I think there's more to be seen for that. I don't know why he's not taking corners, to be quite honest with you, right? So he's 20-year-old. You know, and this is another thing. That average average age of that team yesterday was 26. Now, I asked yesterday in the group chat, because I don't take notice of these things very often, but I says, is that not dead young for us? And it's a good 3, maybe 4 years younger than what we've been used to over the years.
Yeah, in 2022, it was average about just over 30. So it is a significant
difference.
There you go.
Yeah. It's massive, and this is a part of evolution. This is why, you know, we're talking about Clement and is he going to be here and the new contract and all this kind of stuff. At some point, you've got to stay the course. For how many years have we spoken about having a young, dynamic squad with promise, and then you interlink that with the chat around, you know, we need to produce our own talent, we need to sell it, player trade model ad nauseum, right? But yesterday with Jeff at 20, we had Barron. Which Barron? 21, 22?
21.
You've got Diamandi 21. You've got Cortez 21. You've got the boy Agamani, I'm sure we'll talk about coming on. He's 20, 21. So you've got a lot of players there, and a lot of them are copying players that are coming in, and you're like, I can see something here. And there's something to be built on here. And this is why at some point, you sometimes get a wee moment of clarity. You're talking about your drug-addled days, Davey. Sometimes you get, what do you call it, a moment of clarity?
Moment of clarity, yeah.
Moment of clarity. And you're like, maybe I am off my nut expecting Clement to have this team humming after 2 months of the season. And then you give yourself a wee shake and say, aye, but we've got to win and we're 5 points behind. And it's that juxtaposition that always slaps us in the face because we're Rangers. But at some point, you've maybe got to stop and smell the roses and say, you know, there might be something here that if we just let it breathe, and accept that there might be a couple of bumps in the road, we could have something that's special. Let's be optimistic about it. So I thought that 30 minutes, and again, I'm going to Diamandi. I thought it wasn't brilliant, but there's huge energy, getting stuck in, bit of quality in the ball. I thought Cortez did well, showed good determination defensively, which is a criticism, eh?
Yeah, I thought Cortez had a good 45.
So, and then the only thing is, you don't score that second goal. So therefore, looking back in the game, you're like, that was tight. I couldn't wait for the final whistle. But one more goal there when we're on top. Not even when we're on top. You know, Dessers had the chance on 45, and then we kick off and launched a fantastic chance where he nearly put it in the top corner. Either they go in, and I think that's easy street yesterday against a team who are actually doing very well this season. They've had a good start to the season, they're denying it.
Lawrence is a guy, and I think he proved it again yesterday. He isn't in a game for 90 minutes, right? And I don't think he can play 90 minutes every week. He is, I think, your very definition these days of a moments player. Because if you look at the goal, obviously, which was beautiful, but there are two other best chances, it's him. And therefore, you know, he has, in the end, been a match winner. So I think there is a role for Tom Lawrence. I don't think he can play as a number 10 every week, every game. I just don't think it's viable. I don't think he's got the legs to do it. But I think if you use him correctly, he can contribute over a season. He can get goals and set up goals and make things happen. Might be off the bench some weeks, Andy. Might be certain games, he didn't play at Parkhead, and that was a correct decision because those games pass him by because of the physicality of it. But I think they can do things for us this year because, I mean, like, for instance, the first one he scored, or the winner, the only goal, nobody else in their team scores that goal.
Nah. I agree, and when there was calls for clear outs and all that kind of stuff, and he was often cited, I was always like, well, I would caution that. Again, it's been a question of ages and everything else, but he's the one guy that in our team offers something different over a piece. He can shoot, he can. I quite like him when he plays deep. I see that kind of quarterback position he's played a couple of times for Clermont where he uses his passing ability. I don't think that's his best position by any means, and I think there's other options now that are more suitable. But you, for example, took Barn out that team yesterday. I think Lawrence would be the first person I would think of to replace him in terms of that progressive passing ability. There's nobody else really can do it. So there's a number of things we can do with Lawrence in the right games. And he's also one of our senior players now, and we're talking about how young the team is. You need players that have got a wee bit of experience in the starting 11 now and again, and in the dressing room. So there's a definite role for him to play. I think Clermont likes him. I think that's obvious. And his fitness, touchwood. I'll touch some wood here. I'm not just saying that for a fact, but his fitness has been decent as well, and I think they've managed him well. So it was a good goal. It's a cracking goal actually, and. For all we say his legs aren't there, he had a wee 5-yard sprint that made the difference.
No, that's what I mean. He can do it in moments.
Yeah.
He's not going to do that time after time, but it's about knowing when to do it and getting the most out of the resources that you have. And that's what I mean, that I think he could be someone who contributes to this season. The other kind of main discussion was, if you like, two newish players, one making his second appearance, one making his first, and that was Nedum Bayrami and Hamza Igaman. I think it's fair to say that Igaman has impressed in his cameos, very comfortable on the ball. The exciting thing for me, Andy, is that you speak to people at the club and they say he's not fully fit yet. There is more to come, and that's over and above that he'll get better, as a youngster with coaching, etc. But fitness-wise, there's more to come from him. But he just looks comfortable with the ball at his feet, and that is nice.
So I think Clermont made a wee passing comment the other day about him, which I thought was telling, because it was like a nod and a wink, something about him being a big player in the future, something like that, which it sounds like cliche, but it was the actual words, and I can't remember what it were. But he made a reference to it, and when I seen him at Parkhead, there's no the circumstance of the game, and he comes on, immediately wins the ball back, runs with the ball, makes up ground, shows strength. He had a volley, which seems like nothing volley, but in our team it was notable. You don't see many players taking things first time in the edge of the box. I just thought there's something about that boy, and I looked at his physique and I'm like, looks as if he can handle himself for a young 21-year-old, and if he can play as a wide striker, then that tells you a bit about his attributes. He can run with the ball, he can dribble the ball. He's obviously not a slouch speed-wise. And then he came on yesterday, and I'm really excited by him, and I'm almost to the point where I'm like pinching myself to say, don't give this boy too much
let's not,
a head start on things.
Yeah, but let's let him develop at his own pace, and accept, by the way, that there might be
rough edges,
bad games, yes, and things that will come, and just it's about polishing him up and becoming a diamond. But I do think that it's important for any new player to impress early at any club, because then the support get a good first impression.
But so Morelos was the same. So Morelos comes with a kind of small reputation, done something in Finland. And then he plays against, I think he came on against Marseille or something like that, and you're like, right, look at this boy's physique. And when his first thoughts in his mind was to shoot, stuff like that, and you're like, I like this. But he also played without fear, and he played without any inhibition. And that boy yesterday was the exact same. When you look at what he was doing, the likes of when he brought the ball down with his chest in the middle of the park, right? I know there wasn't anybody really near him, but he'd made the space for himself, brings it down on one movement, turns, passes the ball, and it should have been a goal for Lawrence. Running at the defence into the box, he had a cracking flashing header for a corner kick. Because, by the way, we're not good enough at set pieces. If we want to maximise our team, we need to get better at set pieces.
Arsenal,
just exactly.
Now, they can play football, but they work their nuts off. You can tell in training at set
both
pieces,
ends. Yeah,
at both ends. Yeah, absolutely. They don't concede. They don't concede a lot, but I absolutely agree. It's the difference it can make, and that's why it is topical. People are talking, Arsenal have got this set piece, but the players clearly work on it, and they believe in it. And I just think that no matter how good a footballer you are or good a football team you are, and they have some world class players in there, they all learn to do their jobs at set pieces, and it is important. Mm-hmm. And yes, I agree with you 100% there.
So I'm really excited with him, and I think he gives us a wee bit of contrast with Dessers, because when was the last time you seen Dessers put somebody on their arse or leave one on somebody? I think I mentioned this against Carter Vickers. I never see it, and this boy's done it every time I've seen him on the park, and he does it in the right way. It's not like he's barging in like a loony. He's doing it by physical strength and ability to get the ball off people. So I'm quietly excited with this boy, and I think this is where, if we can say what we want about Clement, I made a comment a couple of flagships back about he's maybe the type of manager that's able to work with players from different places and different mentalities. He's made reference yesterday to the fact the boys came from Morocco, completely different culture, totally different football, different intensity being at Rangers. So he's wise to all that kind of stuff, and I think what Clement's good at is he doesn't feel the pressure to bend to what we might want as a support, because we will all want him to start next Saturday against Dundee. I think that'll be something that a lot of folk will be thinking. I think he'll protect him the right way that we're just talking about there. I think he's savvy enough to nurture young talent. So hopefully this is the reversal of the recruitment nightmare, and we've actually had a couple of smart purchases, and it might be why they went early with the money for Igman, even though he wasn't going to be ready for the first game of the season or the first qualifiers.
Yeah, he said that yesterday. He said if we'd waited a year, he we wouldn't be able to afford them.
There you go.
I think that there was an element of that, but if he's in and he's featuring, that young player signing doesn't matter to me, right? It goes back to something that we've spoken about with the Rangers youth development for years, as they get better playing, or at least you find out, one way or the other, because when you've got boys getting to 23, 24 and they've got, 40 first team appearances and 38 of them are as subs, then I don't think that's particularly beneficial. So he's here and he's playing, and we'll hopefully get the benefit of that. Maybe not fully till next season. I mean, he'll contribute. He contributed yesterday, but you're getting, he's getting experience. We're getting something from him, and he can develop, hopefully. But I do think that we need to be patient and not put too much store on him being, a superstar early. And I understand the desperation to do that because things aren't going well. And I'll be honest, I don't think that the supporters had a hero really since Alfredo left.
No question about it.
I think, some talent. Well, exactly. There's been some talented enough players, but there was nobody that I think. There's more to it than that. Sometimes it's just somebody that grabs your imagination.
I had a tiger, Davey. So Morelos said it because he was a wee bastard, right? And at times we were really angry with him, but
he had personality.
Personality is a word I've been trying to say, because I've been talking about other players that haven't got personality. That boy Agamani looks as if he's got personality because he fears nothing, and fans respond to that.
Yeah,
they really do.
No, I totally agree with that. Back to Ibrox on Saturday, Andy, and I'm sure I'm not alone in thinking, thank goodness for that.
Until your smart card doesn't work.
I've been
or your e-ticket.
I've missed it. I mean, it's that simple, and I know other people did. They just did not feel right at Hampden. Your routine, your play, everything about it, the faces you see, the people you see in the stadium itself still gives me a thrill. Just all of that.
It's your church, innit? And Mr. Positivity and Mr. McGowan's going to give you an angle that you should remember. What's the opposite of familiarity breeds contempt? What's the opposite? Absence makes a heart grow fonder. So there
That's
you
the
go.
one,
I
yes.
think there will be a wee bit of that now embedded into us for at least this season, where we don't just take it for granted. And it's good to see the Colton stand looking sharp again, because and nobody wanted to hear it, and I certainly didn't want to say it on your network, David, but there is a reason for why we were doing that to that stand, and it was badly needed, and it's for folk that, you know, have far bigger problems than me and you or anybody, and it means something, and it's going to be a real fantastic facility for them, because I've only been doing the front of that enclosure once or twice where the wheelchairs sat. It was grim, you know, and trying to get out of the ground after the game was horrendous, and that's me walking in two legs. So there is a bigger picture here, which sometimes we only realise years down the line. And I'm delighted that's there. So I'm going to say it was worth the wait for that. You know, it's this absence for Ibrox has been torturous, and it's cost probably more than just the time and the money. There was well, John Bennett will know how it felt, and it's cost a lot of goodwill. But the end product there is worth stopping for a second and say, well, actually, that's something that Rangers can be proud of.
Yeah, I do think once we get back, that someone said that to me weeks ago, that we really can't get going until we get home, and I think that's an absolutely fair comment. And by the way, Andy, it's our network, right?
I'm just a guest, mate.
It's
for legal reasons, I keep myself at arm's length.
You know, it's our network. Oh, sure, I work less hard than everybody and keep most of the money, but that apart, right, doesn't change things. Right, folks, that will do us this week here on Heart and Hand. Cammy, though, will be back later in the week with Heart and Hand Extra, and he'll preview that match against Dundee on Saturday evening. My thanks to Mike Lee and Paul Myers, our producers, and my thanks, as always, good discussion, Andy McGowan. Thank you, mate.
Thanks for having me on, Davey. My last word's just to say thanks to Dundee Council for the parking ticket yesterday. You need to get bigger signs, you bandits.
And you being such a fan of that party, that's the...
Do you know, a point of principle, I came in the house and the first thing I did was went online, just paid it, so they didn't think I was even bothered.
That's exactly it. That's the correct attitude, my man. Right, folks, thanks for listening. We'll be back next week. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.